Well, he has a very simple job. Just don't turn it over. We'll punt. We'll get third down. If we don't make a third down, we'll get to fourth down. We'll punt the football. Just don't turn the football over. Now it's going to be very, very interesting when they start playing better offenses, and your defense is not going to be able to shut them down. Because if you look at, I think they've given up 16 points through the first 2 games. They're going to play offenses that's going to put pressure on Pittsburgh's offense. Then what?
Well, guys, the Steelers somehow continue to amaze me. The winning culture that Mike Tomlin has built within this organization really is showing once again. It hasn't been pretty. In fact, it's been ugly. But we are heading into week 3, and this team is 2-0 and sitting on top of the AFC North. All offseason, I talked about and highlighted how important a fast start was for Pittsburgh with how tough the final 7 or 8 games of their schedule are. And that's exactly what they did. In this video, I'm going to break down and talk about what the Steelers have done to be successful so far into the season. I'm going to talk about the Fields and Wilson situation and so much more. But before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 40K subscribers, and with your support, I believe we can get there super fast. Alright. So let's start off recapping the win over the Broncos. I kind of felt the Steelers would dominate the Broncos defensively because Nix is a rookie, and very often does a team coach like Pittsburgh struggle against a rookie. But the game started off slow with multiple punts by both teams. It wasn't until near the end of the first for Pittsburgh to get into scoring position after Fields sprayed the ball around to most of the skill position players before throwing a 5-yard touchdown to Darnell Washington to put the team up 7-0 and really put the Broncos on their heels, knowing it was going to be tough to score on that Steelers defense. After this, the rest of the game went just how last week's went. Starting with special teams, Chris Boswell came through once again. Boswell hit 2 crucial field goals, including a massive 53-yarder to keep Pittsburgh ahead when the offense struggled to find a rhythm. His consistency has been invaluable, especially in close games like this one. Those 2 field goals, along with the extra point after the touchdown, accounted for 7 of the Steelers' 13 points. On the other side, Will Lutz kept Denver in the game with 2 field goals of his own, but they never got close enough to truly threaten the Steelers. Lutz's contributions were the only points Denver could muster up, and Pittsburgh's defense ensured that the Broncos never got a real shot at finding the end zone. Now let's talk about Justin Fields. While he didn't have an explosive performance, he managed the offense well enough to secure the win. He finished 13 of 20 for 117 yards with 1 touchdown and no interceptions. The Steelers' passing game wasn't flashy, but it was efficient when it needed to be. Fields spread the ball around nicely, hitting targets like Pat Freiermuth, who led the team with 4 catches for 39 yards, and George Pickens, who chipped in with 2 catches for 29 yards. Fields also contributed on the ground with 8 carries for 27 yards. Though his passing numbers weren't gaudy, his ability to make plays with his legs added another dimension to the offense. The key takeaway here is that Fields avoided turnovers and kept the Steelers in control, even when the offense was sputtering at times. On the ground, the Steelers leaned on Najee Harris, who finished with 17 carries for 69 yards. While it wasn't a dominant rushing performance, Harris provided the tough yards, consistently picking up first downs and keeping the chains moving. Jaylen Warren also contributed, adding 42 yards on 9 carries, forming a solid 1-2 punch. The offensive line definitely deserves some recognition as well. Although they allowed 2 sacks, they held up well overall against the Broncos front, led by Nick Bonito and Zach Allen. They opened up enough running lanes for Harris and Warren, but there's still room for improvement, especially with tougher defensive fronts looming on the schedule. Alright, now let's get to the unit that was the real star of the show, the defense. Pittsburgh's defense was absolutely dominant, holding the rookie QB in Bo Nix to 20 of 35 passing for 246 yards, and most importantly, forcing 2 interceptions. Both DeMonte Kazi and Corey Trice Jr. came away with picks, adding to Nix's frustrating day. The Steelers' pass rush was relentless, with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith combining for 2 sacks. Highsmith had a particularly disruptive game, notching 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, and a big QB hit. And Cameron Hayward was his usual force on the interior, making life difficult for Denver's running backs. Speaking of the run defense, Denver could only muster 64 rushing yards on 19 carries, with Bo Nix actually leading the team in rushing with 25 yards. Javonte Williams was completely bottled up, gaining only 17 yards on 11 carries. And the front 7, led by Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, and TJ Watt, did an excellent job of controlling the line of scrimmage and shutting down Denver's rushing attack in the secondary. Minkah Fitzpatrick and Patrick Queen were flying around, helping to keep Denver's receivers in check. And the Broncos' top receiver Josh Reynolds had 93 yards, but much of that came late in the game when it was too little too late. So overall, Pittsburgh's defense allowed only one big play, a 49-yarder to Reynolds, but the coverage was tight all game long. Alright, so now, let's talk about what this means for Justin Fields moving forward. He has done a commendable job managing the offense in these first 2 weeks. His numbers haven't been spectacular, but he's been efficient, avoiding mistakes, and playing to his strengths. Pittsburgh has been smart by utilizing a game plan that features shorter, high-percentage throws, while also letting Fields use his athleticism when needed. As the season progresses, Fields will need to open up the passing game more, especially against stronger defenses. But so far, he's proven he can lead this team to wins, and that's what matters most. Here's what he had to say in the post-game interview.
I think we had a lot on our plate in terms of no huddle, and I think the offense did a great job. I mean, at the beginning of the week, everybody was looking around at each other kind of crazy because we had, personally me, the most, no huddle plays that, we've had. So I feel like other than that one snap to where I wasn't ready, I think we handled that pretty well.
As for Russell Wilson, the big question still remains. What's his role going to be when he's fully healthy? Wilson came to Pittsburgh hoping to revive his career, but with Fields playing solid football, there's no rush to bring him back. He's still dealing with minor injuries, but the expectation is that he could be cleared within the next few weeks, potentially after week 4 or 5. The Steelers brought Wilson in because of his pedigree as a Super Bowl champion and his experience, but right now, it is tough to justify disrupting the chemistry Fields has built with the offense. That said, Wilson could still be a valuable mentor for Fields and a capable backup if needed. Ultimately, it'll depend on how Fields performs in the coming weeks. If he continues to manage games effectively, it's likely Wilson will remain in a backup role. Here's what the media has to say.
But it doesn't mean that we need to change our position or do things that are abnormal in the effort to answer it. We're just simply going to proceed with what we normally do. Our energies and attention are on those that are available and are scheduled to play. They are deserving of that. When those that are not are healthy, we'll ponder it at that time.
We ain't saying is what he said, Tony. Is that what you heard, Kaboli, there with his little foot kind of dosing around as he's...
It was hard to focus with Kaboli's sweet hokas just bouncing around, twirling around there in the bottom of the video.
Next up, the Steelers face the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's going to be another big test. Justin Herbert leads a dynamic offense, and newly acquired running back J.K. Dobbins adds a serious threat to their ground game. Pittsburgh's defense will need to be just as disruptive as they were against Denver, especially in getting after Herbert. TJ Watt and the pass rush will be key to keeping Herbert off balance. Like I said so many times, Fields has done well managing games so far, but the offense will need to step up against the Chargers defense that features stars like Joey Bosa. And establishing the run with Najee Harris will also be a critical component, and the offensive line will most definitely need to be sharp all game long. Alright. So the Steelers are in a good spot at 2-0, sitting atop the AFC North, but the road ahead gets tougher and tougher. They built a solid foundation, especially with their dominant defense, but the offense will need to play cleaner, and they will need to generate big plays a lot more consistently to keep up the momentum. Only time will tell to see if they can continue to grind out wins and keep this early season success rolling. That's really all I got for this one. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed it and haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, because your support truly does mean the world. And also, let me know what you would like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.